Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF Race of the Day. Saturday, December the 3rd, race number 9 at the Big A. It's the Grade 1, $750,000 Cigar Mile. It's a one-turn mile at Aqueduct. Let's take a look at this field. Please scan the QR code for Race of the Day access on mobile. As you see, the number 5, Obesos, will be withdrawn due to the quarantine situation at his home track, Churchill Downs. We have a heavy favorite in here, Mike. It's the very consistent number 2, Zandon, who will be trying older horses for the first time.
Yeah, I got a couple 3-year-olds in here taking on, sort of a modest group of older horses. Dan Zandon, the 2, White Abarrio, the 3. I think they're both going to have something to say about the outcome, and I can't really, argue with Zandon being heavily favored. He's got the figures, and he kind of gives off the impression that he's a horse that might really relish a shorter distance.
But he's a horse that might also need a little bit of pace, and we'll throw up the Timeform US pace projector. You'll note it's a blue bar scenario, favoring horses on or near the early lead. And you see Zandon, the number 2, is last at the pace call. Now, you're going to want to visit timeformus.com once the scratch of Obesos is made official. This pace projector will update. Do you think Zandon could be pace compromised in the Cigar?
It's certainly possible, and I think at a short price, it's something that you want to, certainly take into consideration. Dan, he's a horse who, at least based on what he's done so far, he's at his best when he can just sort of settle a little bit and then make a run from off the pace. This is the first time they're going short with him, though, in a very long time, Dan. So, it wouldn't be that surprising if his running style changed a little bit with the one-turn mile.
Now focusing on who might make the lead. Mind Control is a fast horse. White Abarrio is a fast horse, but neither by any means a blazer. Personally, I think White Abarrio has got to take the bull by the horns and go to the front.
Me too. And Mind Control, certainly has speed, but it's not like he's an, all-out blazer, Dan. He's a horse who does like to take up a tracking position, somewhere relatively close to the pace. To me, White Abarrio has really one chance to win this race, and that's to go to the lead.
Trainer Lynn Cash has 2 in here, and we'll begin with the number 1, Double Crown. Coming off a 42-1 upset victory in this race, the Great Kelso going a mile at Aqueduct. Now, maybe this wasn't the strongest edition of the Kelso, but Double Crown is in with a chance turning into the stretch. He's going to run down an odds-on Baby Yoda.
Yeah, he's the only one making up any ground on Baby Yoda. Not that it's a particularly strong field behind them, but he does make up significant ground here. He is actually winning going away. It's a solid speed figure as well. This is a horse who's now won 2 races in a row. The last 2 times they went a one-turn route with him. Worth noting that Colonial race back in August. A mile and 16th at Colonial, that's a one-turn out of the chute. And then prior to that, Dan, 2 one-turn miles over the summer at Churchill, and he ran really well in both of those races. It feels like this kind of setup really suits him.
Cash claimed this horse for $40,000 during the spring, has turned him into a graded stakes winner. Zandon is the number 2, again, very consistent, winner of the Bluegrass, 3rd in the Derby, 2nd in the Jim Dandy, 3rd in the Travers, 2nd in this race, the Pennsylvania Derby, going a mile and an eighth. This is his most recent start. He fell far behind early, saved ground every step. He's coming through on the inside, and he split some nice horses. Taba would run 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Classic with a 110. Cyberknife would run 2nd in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile with a 105. But he did get a very good trip in this race.
Got a great trip in this race, just sitting on the rail the entire way, never had a straw in his path. He never looked like he was going to win through the stretch, Dan, but he was second best to a good horse. In that replay that we saw there, that gray there was White Abarrio fading in the final furlong after he had to really be sent to make the lead from the outside post. Again, I don't really have any knocks on Zandon. He's basically run well in every one of his 8 career starts so far. And maybe shorter is better. I don't know. I can't argue with him too hard in this race, Dan. I doubt I'm betting him at a really short price, though.
He is coming into this race off 3 consecutive triple-digit buyers. White Abarrio, we did see him tire in the Pennsylvania Derby. He had a very strong spring campaign down at Gulfstream Park. He swept through the Holy Bull and the Florida Derby, and the Kentucky Derby didn't do very well. And since then, he's been trying to find his form. He was very aggressively ridden, Mike, as you noted in the Pennsylvania Derby, and he might not have to work as hard to gain that valuable forward position here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, being drawn in post 11 last time really sort of forced their hand. So they sent him. He actually went a pretty fast pace just to make the lead. And he got tired through the stretch. That wasn't a terrible performance, Dan, although it wasn't a great one either. You know, I would just say, I know he hasn't won since the Florida Derby. To me, the only time he really ran poorly in that 4-race stretch since then was the Haskell. I mean, I don't know what happened in there. He was terrible in that race. But even his Derby isn't as bad as it looks on paper. He's one of the few horses in that race who did not get a good trip. So I can't really knock him. I feel like he's going to the lead in this race. And personally speaking, and I don't know that anybody else really agrees with this, I love this horse going shorter. Every one of his races since the Holy Bulls, 9 furlongs or longer. I don't think he wants to go that far.
The 4 Get Her Number is an interesting X factor in this race, shipping all the way from Southern California for trainer Peter Miller and wheeling back on only 13 days' notice after this victory, a high-level allowance race going 3/4 of a mile. Now, he was last early, got a very nice split entering the far turn under Flavien Prat, gets to the outside with a 3-wide bid, and he's going to run down Ginobili. Now, Ginobili is a name that everyone's familiar with, but he had not run since last year's Cigar Mile. Get Her Number, to me, I think he wants to go a little bit longer than this 6. This was a good effort. Now he's got to do it against better horses.
Yeah, but not, horses that are that much better, Dan. I mean, the 2 3-year-olds in here are both pretty good, obviously, and could get better, but it's not like they're, superstars of the game right now. So I think they've shipped this horse over to run in a really good spot. He's got a couple of recent fast races. And I liked his win last time. Very determined to get the job done there. I'm not worried about him stretching out to the mile.
He was a Grade 1 stakes winner in a weak Grade 1 as a 2-year-old, the American Pharaoh, going a mile on the 16th. The 5-0 Bezos will be withdrawn. We'll move to the 6 Outlier, who's likely to be the outsider in this race. Let's watch his most recent race. This is an allowance at Charlestown, going a 2-turn 6.5. He's odds on in this race, and he's going to get wired by a horse that just had the best of it up front. 24-1, 48 to the half. Outlier makes it close. Maybe he ran the best race, but if you're going to win the Cigar Mile, I think you got to overcome a slow pace to win this one.
Yeah, and it's not like, he just was left with too much to do. We picked up the replay there at the top of the stretch. He was right there alongside the horse that won the race, and he just couldn't get by him. So I didn't really think he had a big excuse in that race. He is a horse, I think it's going to be hard for him to win here, Dan. He is a horse who could show some speed in here, though.
Mind Control completes the field for trainer Todd Pletcher. He's been a mile specialist for most of his career. Early in his career, it was all 1-turn miles. Todd Pletcher last fall stretched him out in the Parks Dirt Mile. He was very, very game to win that 2-turn event when the leader, Silver State, looked like he hung in mid-stretch. But he did come back and got the measure of a good horse, Hot Rod Charlie, in this year's 2-turn Salvatore Mile. And here's his last race, the Parks Dirt Mile, a race where I didn't think he had much of an excuse. He's pushing this horse on the lead. He is going to get impeded a little bit, but even though Mind Control loves a fight, he couldn't get by.
You couldn't get by. If you watch the head on, you'll see that the horse that winds up holding him off came out a couple of different times, most notably right there in the late stages, and sort of bothered Mind Control. I mean, to me, it felt like he was going to go by, and then when that horse kept coming out into him, maybe it took a little of the steam out of him. Either way, I guess he ran fine in that race. Then I really respect the job that Pletcher's done with this horse, because it kind of felt like he was maybe tailing off a little bit before Pletcher took over last summer. He's gotten him back in good form. He's now run really well in all 3 of his starts at the 1-mile distance for Pletcher. They're all 2-turn miles, but he ran really well in all of those races. He's another horse. He's a major player in here. I have no knocks on him. I'm just not a huge fan, and I don't want to bet him at a short price.
He is a hard hitter, he's consistent, and he's tactical. He should be in the thick of things when they turn into the stretch. Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for all the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for the Cigar Mile. We both have a lot of respect for Zandon. He is the horse to beat, in my opinion. I don't want to necessarily take the short price, and I know you feel the same way.
Yeah, I didn't want the short prices on Zandon or Mind Control, Dan. I can't say that I love White Abarrio in here, but I do like him going shorter in here. And I just want this horse on the lead. Irad Ortiz takes over in this race. He's got to send this horse.
I'm very curious to see what we get from Get Her Number, shipping all the way across the country, returning in less than 2 weeks, and stretching out. It's not like he caught the toughest ever Cigar Mile for trainer Peter Miller. Wonder how he's going to get bet in this race. Zandon, the horse to beat. We're going to try and beat him. Mike's going with White Abario, who will be forwardly placed. I'm going to go with the West Coast Invader. Get her number. Good luck.